Johnny Depp visits charity orphanage, notices something important and takes action immediately. It was an ordinary day at the Bright Futures Orphanage, a haven for children who had no one else to care for them. The air was filled with laughter and the faint sounds of toys clattering as children played in their colorful rooms. Outside, the sun bathed the orphanage in a warm glow. For most, it was just another day. But for Johnny Depp, this visit was about to be anything but ordinary. Johnny, known for his warm heart and generous spirit, had always preferred to give back without the limelight. The world often saw him as the enigmatic actor, but beneath the fame and fortune was a man who genuinely cared. That morning, he had decided to visit the orphanage after hearing about its struggles with funding. He thought he'd spend the day reading stories to the kids, helping with chores, and bringing a little joy. As he stepped inside, dressed sharply in a black suit that contrasted against the playful chaos of the orphanage, his presence immediately caused a stir. Children peeked curiously from behind doorways, some whispering to one another, "Is that him? Is that the pirate?" Johnny smiled and waved at them, instantly putting everyone at ease. The orphanage director, a kind woman named Ms. Clara, greeted him warmly. She explained the schedule for the day, but Johnny was never one to stick strictly to plans. "I'd like to spend time where I'm needed most," he said. Ms. Clara nodded and guided him to the playroom, where several children were gathered. As soon as Johnny entered the room, his eyes were drawn to a peculiar scene in the corner. A man wearing a white shirt labeled volunteer sat with two young girls in matching blue dresses. The girls clung to him tightly, their small faces marked by worry rather than the carefree expressions of the other children. Something about the scene unsettled Johnny. The man, who introduced himself as Mark, appeared to be a volunteer, but his overprotective demeanor didn't sit well with Johnny. He approached slowly, his natural charm disarming the tension. He knelt in front of the girls and spoke softly. "Hello there, my little friends. What's your name?" The girls hesitated, their wide eyes darting toward Mark before looking back at Johnny. The older of the two, Emily, finally whispered, "I'm Emily. This is my sister, Sophie." Johnny noticed the way Sophie clung to her sister, her small fingers digging into Emily's dress. "They've had a tough time adjusting," Mark interjected with a forced smile. "I've been keeping an eye on them." Johnny's instinct told him something was off. He could feel the unease radiating from the girls. Deciding not to push too hard, he shifted gears and began telling them a lighthearted story about one of his movie characters. His soothing voice and humor slowly chipped away at their fear. Emily giggled softly, and even Sophie's grip on her sister loosened a bit. But Johnny wasn't done investigating. He stayed close to the girls throughout the day, observing Mark's behavior. There was a possessiveness in the way Mark interacted with them. He seemed overly eager to shield them from anyone else. Johnny's sharp instincts, honed both from life experience and years of playing complex characters, told him there was more to the story. Later that afternoon, Johnny found a moment to speak privately with Ms. Clara. "Those two girls," he began, his voice serious but calm. "What's their story?" Ms. Clara sighed. "They were brought to us a few weeks ago by a man who claimed to be their relative, but their paperwork was incomplete, and he disappeared shortly after dropping them off. We've been trying to trace their family, but we haven't had much luck." Johnny's brows furrowed. "And this volunteer, Mark? How long has he been here?" Ms. Clara hesitated. "He only joined a week ago. He said he wanted to help the girls specifically. He's been good with them, but—" Johnny leaned in. "But? There's something about him that feels off," Ms. Clara admitted. Johnny's mind raced. He decided to speak directly to the girls again. This time, he waited until Mark was distracted and knelt down beside them. "Emily, Sophie," he said gently, "you're safe here. Can you tell me anything about where you came from?" Emily hesitated, looking at Sophie. Then, in a barely audible voice, she said, "We miss Mommy." "Where's Mommy?" Johnny asked carefully. Emily's eyes welled up with tears. "She told us to stay with Uncle Mark, but she didn't come back." Johnny's heart sank. "Uncle Mark? Is that the man you're with now?" Emily nodded. "But he's not really our uncle. Mommy said we shouldn't talk to strangers, but she was crying when she told us to go with him." Johnny's suspicions were confirmed. He knew he had to act fast. Quietly, he contacted his personal security team and a trusted investigator. Within hours, they had uncovered the truth. The girls' mother had been coerced into handing them over to Mark, who had a history of involvement in illegal activities. He had planned to exploit the girls for personal gain, using the orphanage as a cover. Johnny wasted no time. He alerted the authorities, who arrived swiftly to apprehend Mark. The girls were placed under protective care, and Johnny personally ensured they were connected with social workers who could reunite them with their mother. In the days that followed, Johnny continued to visit the orphanage, using his resources to improve its security and ensure no child would ever face such danger again. Emily and Sophie's story became a turning point for the orphanage, inspiring others to donate and volunteer. For Johnny, it was a reminder of why he did what he did, not for the fame, but for moments like these, where he could make a real difference. And as he left the orphanage that day, Emily and Sophie ran up to him, their faces now lit with the pure joy of children who felt safe. "Thank you, Johnny," Emily said, her voice full of gratitude. Johnny knelt down, giving them both a warm hug. "You're welcome, little ones. Always remember, you're never alone." As he walked away, he felt a profound sense of purpose. This wasn't just a visit to an orphanage. It was a story of hope, courage, and the power of stepping up when it mattered most.